Hey guys, welcome back. It has been a long time since I reviewed a Maserati, let alone a Levante. So let's get into this 2018 SQ4 and see what's going on. Unfortunately, leg and headroom are a bit compromised. More so headroom. If you're above 5'9", I think you're going to have a problem in the back seat. What do we got over here? Corvette and some kind of Dodge and a Q5 Sportback. Whatever. Only 30,000 miles. And now for the button test. And now for the final button. What is going on with the Levante? Well, unfortunately, it is a little bit creakier than the last Maserati that I remember reviewing, which this was like 5 years ago when I started making these videos. I remember I was in a Ghibli, and the Ghibli did not make that many squeaks. This one made a little bit more squeaks than that car, unfortunately. Sort of a death of a thousand cuts kind of situation. I know I use that term a lot. Overall, I'd give this a 6 out of 10 for fit and finish. Not the best, but definitely not the worst. As far as materials go, this is where we're looking a little bit brighter here. Now, I know that you can spec these Maseratis differently, so this car has the whatever package you have to get nice, soft, stitched leather on the dash and on the seat, on the door and everything. Not all of these Maseratis, even Levantes, are going to be like that. They're going to get the soft touch vinyl crap. This one does have the leather with the nice color contrast white stitching all over the dash, all over the door, even in the lower areas like your glove box and below your knees. That's all real nice feeling leather. I can't lie. It's a good feeling leather. The Italians know what they're doing. Maybe the Italian gods are listening to my prayers, because I do not see a lick of black piano fake veneer looking plastic. There is plastic in here, but the main trim is carbon fiber. Thank God there is none of that glossy, black, nasty plastic that imitates wood, like in every car. I'm looking at you, Mercedes and Porsche. The seats in here are real leather, and they are a nice, soft, supple Nappa leather. They feel excellent to the touch, and they're quite supportive, actually. Good seats. The headliner and the sun visor are cloth. I know you can upgrade to Alcantara in these cars, but this one is the cloth, but it's a super, super, super duper soft cloth. It kind of reminds me of Lexus. They happen to use a very super soft cloth for their headliner and sun visor. This feels kind of like that material in the Lexus. And then one of people's biggest gripes about these cars are the buttons and switch gear, which, you know what, I understand. There are, in fact, a few buttons and switches from Chrysler. Like, for example, this turn signal stock right here is the exact same part from a Jeep Grand Cherokee. You could probably order this part right here from Mopar or go to the Jeep parts department and it'll fit this car if it happens to break. I'm not even kidding. It's like the exact same function and everything. Same goes for these window controls, although Maserati puts this little metal, little chrome piece right here in the very front. Otherwise, this is basically identical to any Chrysler product from this era. Not a single lick of difference. Hell, even this head unit's the same. I mean, they call it something else and they have the Maserati logo in the middle, but you know, that's just a shortcut button to your apps. This is the exact same thing as Uconnect. This is the 8.4-inch Uconnect screen, which I guess if you're used to it in the Jeep is not bad here either. And then a couple buttons on the steering wheel are similar to Jeep. They're not identical, but they are similar. The rest of the buttons and switchgear, though, are, I think, actually from Maserati, or at least not really shared with any other Jeeps for that matter. Like, for example, these paddle shifters, you're not going to find those in a Jeep product. These are actually some of the nicest paddle shifters I've ever felt. They're absolutely metal, cold, solid to the touch, and they make a nice little ding right there. Excellent paddle shifters, and they're mounted to the column and not the steering wheel, unlike Porsche, who needs to learn a thing or two. Speaking of Porsche, I find it interesting that the car wizard ended up buying one of these for his wife instead of a Porsche Macan like he said he was considering. I've driven the Macan, and that's also a very nice car. I can understand why people would complain about some of the interior bits being out of a Chrysler and then paying $90,000 for this car, which is what I imagine this cost when it was new. However, this car is not $90,000. Only 30,000 miles, though. That's like 3 years of driving. This car, in particular, is priced in the 30s. For that kind of money, you could buy this or a brand new Honda CR-V. And if you're okay with paying a little bit more for maintenance and insurance, and gas for that matter, why the hell would I buy the CR-V? I'd buy this all day. Like, this interior is awesome for 30 grand. And that's why I'm giving it an 8 out of 10 for materials. It would score a little bit lower if it didn't have this leather package that I can't think of the name of, but it does, and I'm reviewing this car. So there you go. Your final score is going to be 6 out of 10 for fit and finish, 8 out of 10 for materials. Let me know your thoughts. I did take this car on a brief test drive, and I gotta tell you, drives pretty nice. It's a little bit harsh, though, even in the non-sport mode. I guess it has sport for the exhaust and for the engine and whatnot, but then there's sport suspension, which is like super stiff. But even in the normal mode, I gotta tell you, the ride is a little bit harsh. It's definitely harsher than a Cayenne, which is, I guess, a big comparison vehicle for this. Is people like to compare the Levante to the Porsche Cayenne. I mean, to be honest, they were kind of going after the Cayenne when they came out with this car back in 2016. But how does it feel compared to a Cayenne? Well, it's definitely more fun. The exhaust is much louder. You can hear and feel the engine and all that stuff much more than you would in a Cayenne, which makes this thing kind of more fun. I guess a little bit more rewarding in a way. I gotta tell you though, the transmission, not as good. That's one of the weak points of this car, unfortunately, despite having these gorgeous paddle shifters. The transmission, even in the sport mode, is just kind of slow. Like when you click down on the paddle to downshift, it takes a sec. It's not very responsive at all. Not the case in the Porsche. Porsche's, right away. You upshift or downshift, it's almost immediate. Not in the Levante. So really, there's only a couple reasons why I wouldn't like this car, or I wouldn't prefer it to a Cayenne. One being the Chrysler parts bin things with some of the buttons. Number two, the transmission. Number three is, from the back end, this car kind of looks like an Infiniti. It doesn't look as special as it perhaps ought to be. Once you get inside, though, it's a little bit better. I don't know if I'm really a fan of the way this screen looks, like with the vents on either side, with the buttons here. To me, that screams Japanese car, like Infiniti. But I also appreciate for not being like a little pop-out toaster thingy like they do with the Mercedes GLC or the GLE for that matter. I guess I prefer this to that. But yeah, $30,000. This car is not as bad as people say. I mean, they like to take a dump on Maserati, and that's why these cars depreciate so freaking much, because of the bad publicity. But if this car stays reliable, this is a hell of a bargain for 30 grand. Sometimes even lower if the miles are a little bit higher up. I would take this car for 30 grand all day. Really happy with it. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Aston Martin DBX that I reviewed recently, with all the leather, and there are some nice, metal and aluminum bits in here, kind of like in that car. It's just, I guess, more watered down. Think of this as like a watered down DBX, but instead of costing $100,000 used, of course, this is like $30,000. For 30 grand, there are not a lot of other SUVs that make you feel this special. Despite the powertrain shortcomings, the exhaust absolutely makes up for it, though. This car is so much fun. It might piss off your neighbors a little bit, but yeah, it's worth it. This car does make you feel special. It makes me feel special anyway. I dig it. Anyway, I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Peace. So you get remote start from the key fob, which none of this car's competitors offer at the moment.